The quad was alive with the hum of autumn leaves crunching underfoot, laughter spilling from students sprawled on the grass, and the faint thrum of a busker's guitar. Ezra Castillo, 24, stood frozen, his heart hammering as he saw him. Jasper Reed, 25, striding toward him with a look that could unravel a lifetime. 2 years ago, Jasper had shattered Ezra's world with a single, brutal sentence, "I don't feel the same." "Ezra, stop." Now, Jasper was here, his hazel eyes wide with something desperate, something new. Ezra's breath caught, his fingers tightening around the strap of his messenger bag. He'd spent months rebuilding himself after that rejection, stitching together the pieces of his pride in this sprawling California university, only to feel it all fraying now under Jasper's gaze. It had been a crisp October evening when Ezra first confessed. They were roommates then, sharing a cramped dorm room filled with Jasper's vinyl records and Ezra's dog-eared poetry books. Ezra, with his warm brown eyes and quiet intensity, had always been the softer one, the dreamer who wore his heart openly. Jasper, with his sharp jawline and effortless charisma, was the opposite: bold, magnetic, the kind of guy who could command a room without trying. They'd grown close over late-night talks and stolen glances. Or so Ezra thought, when he finally poured out his feelings, his voice trembling with hope. Jasper's response was a blade, cold, final, and merciless. "You're delusional," Jasper had said, his voice flat. "We're just friends. Don't make this weird." Ezra had stood there, humiliated, as Jasper grabbed his jacket and left the room. The door's slam echoed in Ezra's chest for months. Now, 2 years later, Ezra had carved out a new life. He was a senior, majoring in literature, thriving in his campus poetry slams, and dating casually, though no one ever quite reached the space Jasper had occupied. He'd learned to live with the ache, to let it fade into background noise. But Jasper hadn't faded. He'd transferred to a different college after that night, vanishing from Ezra's world until today. "Ezra." Jasper's voice cut through the quad's chatter, raw and urgent. Ezra's stomach twisted. He turned, half expecting to see the same cold dismissal in Jasper's eyes. Instead, he saw something else: regret, maybe, or desperation. Jasper's dark hair was a mess, his flannel shirt slightly untucked, as if he'd run across campus to find him. "What do you want, Jasper?" Ezra's voice was steady, but his hands shook. He took a step back, the distance between them a shield. "I need to talk to you," Jasper said, his breath uneven. "Please, just 5 minutes." Ezra's instinct was to run. He'd spent too long healing to let Jasper rip open old wounds. But something in Jasper's voice, a crack of vulnerability, held him in place. "5 minutes," Ezra said, crossing his arms. "Then you leave me alone." They moved to a quieter corner of the quad, near a stone fountain where water shimmered under the afternoon sun. Jasper ran a hand through his hair, his usual confidence replaced by something unsteady. "I messed up, Ezra," he started. "Back then, too, wasn't ready. I didn't know how to handle what you felt. What I felt." Ezra's heart lurched, but he kept his face neutral. "You made that clear. What's changed?" "I was scared," Jasper admitted, his voice low. "I didn't know who I was. I pushed you away because I couldn't face myself. But I've been thinking about you every day since I left. I transferred back here because I can't stop thinking about you." Ezra's throat tightened. He wanted to believe it, wanted to let Jasper's words fill the hollow space he'd carried for years. But trust was a fragile thing, and Jasper had broken it without a second thought. "You don't get to do this," Ezra said, his voice sharp. "You don't get to waltz back into my life and act like you didn't destroy me." "I know I hurt you," Jasper said, stepping closer. "I hate myself for it. But I'm different now. I've changed. Ezra, I'm trying to be honest with you. With myself." Ezra shook his head, his eyes stinging. You had your chance. I'm not your redemption story. He turned to leave, his heart pounding. But Jasper grabbed his wrist gentle, but firm. Please, Jasper whispered. Just hear me out. I'm not asking for forgiveness yet. I just need you to know I'm here. And I'm not giving up. Ezra yanked his hand free, his chest tight with a mix of anger and something softer. Something dangerous. He walked away, the quad blurring around him, Jasper's words echoing in his mind. He didn't look back, but he felt Jasper's gaze burning into him. A promise or a threat that this wasn't over. That night, Ezra sat in his off-campus apartment, a cozy one-bedroom filled with books and string lights. His roommate, Lila, a 23-year-old art major with a knack for reading people, noticed his tension immediately. Spill, she said, tossing her sketchpad aside. You look like you saw a ghost. Not a ghost, Ezra muttered, staring at his untouched coffee. Jasper's back. Lila's eyes widened. She knew the story everyone close to Ezra did. The Jasper. The one who. Yeah. Ezra cut her off. He's transferred back. Says he's changed. Says he's sorry. The word felt foreign. Heavy. Lila leaned forward, her braids falling over her shoulder. Do you believe him? Ezra didn't answer right away. He thought of Jasper's eyes today, the way they held a sincerity he'd never seen before. But he also remembered the sting of rejection, the nights he'd spent questioning his own worth. I don't know, he admitted. I don't know if I can trust him. Then don't, Lila said simply. Not yet. Make him prove it. Ezra nodded, but his mind was a storm. He didn't want to hope, didn't want to let Jasper back in. But the truth was, a part of him, the part that still dreamed in poetry, wanted to believe Jasper could be different. The next day, Ezra found a note slipped under his apartment door. In Jasper's familiar scrawl, it read, Meet me at the library. 7 p.m. I owe you more than words. Ezra's first instinct was to tear it up. But he didn't. He tucked it into his pocket, his heart warring with itself. At 7 p.m., the library was quiet, its tall windows casting golden light across rows of books. Ezra hesitated at the entrance, his pulse racing. He didn't know what Jasper wanted, or why he was even considering this. But as he stepped inside, he saw Jasper waiting at a table, a small stack of books in front of him, poetry collections, the same ones Ezra used to read aloud in their dorm. Jasper looked up, his face softening. You came, he said, almost disbelieving. Don't make me regret it, Ezra replied, sitting across from him. What's this about? Jasper pushed a book toward Hemo-worn copy of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. I read it, he said quietly. After I left, I remembered how much you loved it. I wanted to understand you better. Ezra stared at the book, his throat tight. It was a small gesture, but it hit him hard. Whitman had been his refuge after Jasper's rejection. The words a balm for his broken heart. You think a book makes up for what you did? He asked, his voice low. No, Jasper said quickly. Nothing makes up for it. But I'm trying. Ezra, I'm trying to show you I'm serious. Ezra didn't respond. He opened the book, his fingers tracing the familiar pages. For a moment, they sat in silence, the weight of their past heavy between them. Ezra wanted to stay angry, to protect himself. But Jasper's presence, the quiet earnestness in his eyes, was chipping away at his defenses. I don't trust you, Ezra said finally, closing the book. But I'm here. That's all you get for now. Jasper nodded, a flicker of hope in his eyes. That's enough. As Ezra left the library, the night air cool against his skin, he felt the first stirrings of something he hadn't felt in years, possibility. It terrified him, but it also felt like the start of something he wasn't ready to name. Ezra woke to the soft patter of rain against his window, the gray sky mirroring the churn of his thoughts. Jasper's return had thrown his carefully rebuilt world into chaos. Every moment since that encounter in the quad felt like a tug-of-war between his heart and his head. Between the boy who'd loved Jasper fiercely and the man who'd learned to guard himself. He dragged himself to his morning literature class, a seminar on queer voices in modern poetry. The professor, Dr. Gwen, a sharp-witted woman in her 40s, was dissecting Audre Lorde's work with her usual passion. Ezra tried to focus, but his mind kept drifting to Jasper's note, now crumpled in his desk drawer. I owe you more than words. What did that even mean? Was Jasper playing some kind of game? Or was he genuinely trying to make amends? As class ended, Ezra lingered, scribbling notes to avoid the rain-soaked walk back to his apartment. That's when he saw Jasper again, leaning against a lamppost outside the lecture hall, his jacket damp and his hair sticking to his forehead. He looked like he'd been waiting for a while. "Stalking me now?" Ezra called out, half joking, half wary, as he stepped into the drizzle. Jasper straightened, a sheepish smile breaking through. "Not stalking. Just hoping you'd show up." He held out a coffee cup, steam rising from the lid. "It's black. 2 sugars. Still your order?" Ezra hesitated, then took the cup, the warmth seeping into his hands. "You remembered." "I remember a lot," Jasper said softly. "More than you think." Ezra's chest tightened. He wanted to snap back, to keep the wall between them high. But the gesture, small, thoughtful, made it harder. "What are you doing, Jasper?" he asked, his voice quieter now. "Why are you trying so hard?" Jasper's smile faded, replaced by something raw. "Because I was an idiot. Because I spent 2 years running from who I am. And I lost you in the process. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know I'm not that guy anymore." Ezra studied him, the rain streaking down Jasper's face, his eyes unguarded in a way they'd never been before. It was disarming, and that scared Ezra more than anything. "You don't get to decide you're not that guy and expect me to just believe it," he said. "You hurt me, Jasper. You made me feel like I was nothing." Jasper flinched, his hands shoving into his pockets. "I know, and I'll spend as long as it takes to make it right." Ezra didn't respond. He turned and walked away, the coffee cup still warm in his hand, Jasper's words sinking into him like rain into the earth. Over the next week, Jasper became a constant presence, not overwhelming, but persistent. A note tucked into Ezra's favorite library carrel with a quote from Whitman. A playlist emailed to him, filled with songs they'd listened to in their dorm days. A quick text saw this poet at a reading. Thought of you with a link to a local slam event. Each gesture was small, deliberate, like Jasper was trying to rebuild a bridge 1 brick at a time. Ezra didn't know how to feel. Part of him wanted to lean into it, to let himself believe Jasper had changed. But another part, the part that still carried the scar of that night, screamed at him to stay guarded. He confided in Lila over late-night takeout, spilling his confusion over fried rice and spring rolls. "He's trying," Lila said, pointing her chopsticks at him. "But trying doesn't mean he's earned you back. You decide the pace. Ezra, don't let him rush you." "I don't even know if I want him back," Ezra admitted, though the words felt like a lie the moment they left his mouth. Lila raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that?" Ezra didn't answer. He wasn't sure of anything anymore. The turning point came at the campus poetry slam, a monthly event in the student union's dimly lit lounge. Ezra was a regular, his words a way to process the world, to make sense of the chaos in his heart. Tonight, he'd prepared a piece about love and betrayal, raw and unfiltered, inspired by Jasper's return. He didn't expect Jasper to be there, but when he stepped onto the stage and saw him in the crowd, leaning against the back wall, Ezra's pulse spiked. He gripped the mic, his voice steady despite the storm inside. "This is called Shatter," he said, and began. "You carved your name into my bones, then walked away when I bled. I built a home from the pieces you left. But now you're knocking, begging to be let in. The words poured out, sharp and aching, each line a piece of the hurt he'd carried. The crowd was silent, absorbed, but Ezra's eyes kept finding Jasper's, locked on him with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. When he finished, the room erupted in snaps and cheers. But Jasper didn't move. He just stood there, his expression unreadable, until Ezra stepped off the stage. Jasper approached him later, as the crowd thinned. "That was about me," he said quietly. "Not a question." Ezra nodded, his throat tight. "It's always been about you." Jasper swallowed, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't deserve that. But I want to earn it. Ezra, I want to be the person you write about when you're happy." Ezra's heart twisted. He wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it hurt. But trust wasn't something he could give freely. Not after everything. "Then keep showing me," he said, his voice firm. "Words aren't enough." Jasper nodded, a flicker of determination in his eyes. "I will." The weeks that followed were a dance of cautious steps. Jasper didn't push, but he didn't disappear either. He showed up to Ezra's favorite coffee shop, not to intrude, but to sit quietly with his own work, stealing glances that Ezra pretended not to notice. He joined a campus volunteer group Ezra was part of, helping at a local queer youth center. And Ezra saw a side of him he hadn't before: patient, kind, engaged. It was disorienting, seeing the man Jasper was becoming, so different from the one who'd broken his heart. One evening, they ended up at the youth center together, sorting donated clothes for a community event. The room was quiet, just the two of them, the air heavy with unspoken words. Ezra broke the silence first. "Why now, Jasper?" he asked, folding a sweater. "Why come back after all this time?" Jasper paused, his hands stilling on a pair of jeans. "I was running from myself," he said. "I grew up in a place where being anything other than straight wasn't okay. When you told me how you felt, it scared me because I didn't feel something too, but because I didn't know how to be that person. I hurt you to protect myself, and I've regretted it every day since." Ezra's hands froze. It was the first time Jasper had admitted to feeling something back then. "You felt something?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Jasper met his eyes, unflinching. "I did. I do." The admission hung between them, heavy and fragile. Ezra wanted to reach out, to close the distance, but fear held him back. "I need time," he said finally. "I need to know this is real." Jasper nodded, his expression soft but resolute. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." As Ezra left the center that night, the rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and clean. He felt lighter, like a weight had shifted, even if it hadn't lifted entirely. Jasper's words echoed in his mind, a promise he wasn't ready to trust but one he couldn't ignore. Winter crept into the campus, dusting the quad with frost and turning breaths into clouds. Ezra found himself watching Jasper more closely now, noticing the small ways he'd changed. The old Jasper had been all bravado, quick to charm but quicker to deflect. This Jasper was quieter, more thoughtful, his actions speaking louder than his words ever had. But Ezra's heart was still a battlefield, torn between hope and caution. One freezing December afternoon, Ezra was leaving the library when he spotted Jasper on a bench, hunched over a notebook. Curiosity got the better of him, and he approached, his boots crunching on the icy path. "What's that?" he asked, nodding at the notebook. Jasper looked up, startled, then smiled faintly. "Just something I'm working on." He hesitated, then handed it over. "You can look." Ezra took the notebook, his fingers brushing Jasper's for a momentous spark he tried to ignore. The pages were filled with sketches and scribbled notes, ideas for a community project at the Queer Youth Center, detailed plans for a mentorship program, quotes from poets Ezra loved, even a rough drawing of the quad where they'd first reconnected. It was thoughtful, intentional, and so unlike the Jasper he'd known. "You're really into this," Ezra said, handing it back, his voice softer than he meant it to be. Jasper shrugged, but his eyes were earnest. "It matters to me. You matter to me. I'm trying to show you that." Ezra didn't know how to respond. The sincerity in Jasper's voice was a thread pulling at the seams of his defenses. He wanted to believe it, but the memory of that night 2 years ago still lingered, sharp and cold. "I see it," he said finally. "But seeing and trusting are different." Jasper nodded, no trace of frustration in his expression. "I know. I'm not asking for more than you can give." They sat in silence for a moment, the campus quiet under the weight of winter. Ezra's breath puffed out in the cold, and he found himself speaking before he could stop. "There's a poetry reading tomorrow night, at the bookstore downtown. You could come." Jasper's face lit up, a cautious hope in his eyes. "I'd like that." The bookstore was a warm haven, its shelves packed with books and the air thick with the smell of coffee. The reading was intimate. A small crowd gathered in a cozy corner where a local poet, a trans woman named Marisol, shared her work. Ezra sat near the front, his notebook open, jotting down lines that struck him. Jasper sat beside him, quiet but attentive, his presence a steady warmth. Afterward, they lingered, sipping hot chocolate and talking about the poems. Jasper surprised Ezra with his insights, picking up on themes of identity and resilience that resonated with them both. "I didn't get poetry before," Jasper admitted, stirring his drink. "But listening to you talk about it, reading the stuff you love, it's like seeing the world through your eyes." Ezra's heart did a strange flip. "You're trying to flatter me now," he teased, but his voice was soft. "No flattery," Jasper said, his gaze steady. "Just truth." They walked back to campus under a sky dusted with stars, the cold biting at their fingertips. Ezra felt the pull between them, stronger now, but he wasn't ready to cross that line. Not yet. As they reached his apartment, he paused at the door. "Thanks for coming tonight," he said. "It was nice." Jasper smiled. "A small, genuine thing. Anytime." Ezra. The holidays came, and with them, a break from classes. Ezra stayed on campus, working part-time at the bookstore and volunteering at the youth center. Jasper stayed too, citing a project deadline, though Ezra suspected it was more about staying close. They fell into a rhythm: coffee runs, late-night talks at the center, moments that felt like the old days but heavier, laced with the weight of their history. One night, they were at the youth center, decorating for a holiday event. The kids, a vibrant mix of teens finding their place in the world, were laughing and stringing lights. Ezra was helping a shy 15-year-old named Kai with a banner when Jasper joined them, his sleeves rolled up, a streak of glitter on his cheek. "You're a mess," Ezra said, laughing despite himself. Jasper grinned, wiping at his face and making it worse. "Worth it for the kids." He glanced at Kai, who was watching them with a knowing smile. "Right, Kai?" Kai nodded, their eyes bright. "You two are cute," they said, then darted off, leaving Ezra blushing and Jasper chuckling. Later, as they cleaned up, Jasper's mood shifted, his expression serious. "I came out to my family," he said abruptly, his voice low. "Over Thanksgiving. It didn't go great." Ezra froze, a string of lights in his hands. "What happened?" Jasper shrugged, but his eyes were distant. "My dad didn't say much. My mom cried, said she needed time. They're not disowning me, but it's complicated." He looked at Ezra, vulnerability raw in his face. "Telling them made me realize how much I've been hiding. Not just from them, but from you. From myself." Ezra's heart ached for him, for the weight he was carrying. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "That's hard." Jasper nodded, his jaw tight. "It is. but it's also freeing. I'm not running anymore. Ezra, I want to be honest. With you especially. Ezra didn't know what to say. He felt the shift. The way Jasper's openness was dismantling the walls between them. But he still held back. The fear of being hurt again a quiet shadow. I'm proud of you, he said finally. That took courage. Jasper's smile was small but real. Thanks. That means a lot. As January rolled in, the campus buzzed with the start of a new semester. Ezra threw himself into his classes. But Jasper was never far from his thoughts. They were spending more time together now. Not just chance encounters, but deliberate moment study sessions. Walks through the quad. Even a movie night at Lila's insistence. Lila, ever the skeptic, kept a close eye on Jasper but admitted he seemed genuine. One evening, they were in Ezra's apartment, sprawled on the couch with a pizza box between them. Jasper was telling a story about a disastrous high school play he'd been in, his laughter filling the room. Ezra found himself laughing too, the sound unfamiliar after so long. For a moment, it felt like they were back in their dorm, before everything fell apart. You're different, Ezra said suddenly, the words slipping out. Jasper paused, his slice of pizza halfway to his mouth. Good different. Ezra considered it, his heart pounding. Yeah, good different. Jasper's eyes softened, and for a moment, Ezra thought he might lean in, might close the distance between them. But Jasper didn't. He just smiled, a quiet promise in his gaze. I'm glad. As Ezra walked him to the door later, the air felt charged, heavy with possibility. He wanted to say something, to name the thing growing between them, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he said, see you tomorrow. Jasper nodded, his hand lingering on the doorknob. Tomorrow. Ezra closed the door, his heart racing. He was falling again, and this time, he wasn't sure he wanted to stop. Spring arrived, painting the campus in bursts of color cherry blossoms. New grass, the hum of life waking up. Ezra felt it too, a cautious bloom in his chest, though he fought to keep it contained. Jasper's persistence had worn down his defenses, but trust was still a fragile thread, stretched thin by the past. They were spending more time together now, their interactions a mix of ease and tension. Jasper was careful, never pushing too far, but his presence was a constant pull. Ezra noticed the way Jasper listened now. Really listened, hanging on his words during poetry discussions or laughing at his sarcastic quips. It was intoxicating, and that scared him. One sunny afternoon, they were at the quad, sprawled on a blanket with books and iced coffee. Jasper was reading aloud from a novel Ezra had recommended, his voice warm and steady. Ezra watched him, the sunlight catching the gold in his hazel eyes, and felt a pang of something he hadn't let himself feel in years' hope. You're staring, Jasper said, glancing up with a playful smirk. Ezra flushed, looking away. You're making a mess of that passage. He lied, though his smile betrayed him. Jasper laughed, closing the book. Sure. Blame me. You're the one who picked this pretentious novel. Pretentious? Ezra gasped, mock offended. Take that back. Make me, Jasper teased, leaning closer. For a moment, the world narrowed to the space between them, the air thick with unspoken possibilities. Ezra's heart raced, but he pulled back, breaking the moment. Your trouble, he muttered, grabbing his coffee to hide his nerves. Jasper's smile softened, but he didn't push. Maybe, but I'm your trouble, if you'll let me. Ezra didn't respond, but the words stayed with him, echoing through the rest of the day. The tension came to a head at the Queer Youth Center's spring fundraiser, a vibrant event with music, food trucks, and a talent showcase. Ezra was emceeing, his easy charm lighting up the crowd. Jasper was there too, helping with setup and stealing glances at Ezra between tasks. The kids noticed, whispering and giggling, and even Lila, who'd come to support, gave Ezra a knowing look. During a break, Ezra found Jasper by a food truck, holding 2 plates of tacos. "Hungry?" Jasper asked, offering one. Ezra took it, their fingers brushing. "You're gonna spoil me," he said, half joking. "Good," Jasper replied, his voice low. "You deserve it." They sat on a nearby bench, the music and laughter of the event swirling around them. Ezra felt the weight of Jasper's gaze, steady and warm, and something in him shifted. "Why do you keep doing this?" he asked, his voice quiet but firm. "All these gestures, all this effort, what do you want?" Jasper set his plate down, his expression serious. "I want you, Ezra. Not just as a friend, not just to make things right. I want us. I know I messed up, and I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But I'm in love with you, and I can't keep pretending I'm not." Ezra's breath caught, his taco forgotten. The words hit like a wave, pulling him under. He'd dreamed of hearing them, but now they felt too big, too heavy. "You don't get to just say that," he said, his voice shaking. "Not after everything." "I know," Jasper said, his eyes pleading. "But I mean it. I've spent 2 years figuring out who I am, and every road leads back to you. I don't expect you to say it back. Not now. I just need you to know." Ezra stood, his heart pounding. "I need to think," he said, and walked away, the noise of the fundraiser fading behind him. He found a quiet corner by a tree, his mind racing. Jasper's confession was everything he'd wanted, but it also terrified him. What if he let Jasper in again, only to be hurt? What if he didn't, and regretted it forever? Lila found him later, her expression gentle. He laid it all out there. "Huh?" Ezra nodded, his throat tight. "I don't know what to do, Lila. I want to believe him. But you're scared," she finished. "That's okay. You don't have to decide tonight. Just listen to your heart, Ezra. It's smarter than you think." The next week was a blur. Ezra avoided Jasper, needing space to process. He threw himself into his poetry, writing late into the night, his words a tangle of longing and fear. Jasper didn't push, but he didn't disappear either. He left small notes thinking of you and gave Ezra the distance he needed, a quiet respect that only made things harder. One evening, Ezra was at the bookstore, shelving new arrivals, when Jasper walked in. He looked nervous, a rare sight. "I'm not here to pressure you," Jasper said quickly. I wrote something. For you." He handed Ezra a folded piece of paper and left without another word. Ezra opened it later, alone in his apartment. It was a letter, raw and unpolished, in Jasper's messy handwriting. "Ezra, I don't know if you'll read this, but I had to write it. I've spent 2 years running from who I am, from what I felt for you. I was scared, and I hurt you because of it. I can't undo that, but I can promise to be better. I love you, not the idea of you, but you, with your poetry and your quiet strength and the way you make everyone around you feel seen. I don't know if you'll ever love me back, but I'll keep showing up, because you're worth it. Always. Jasper." Ezra's eyes stung as he read it, the words sinking into him like a melody. He set the letter down, his heart a mess of hope and fear. He didn't know if he was ready, but he knew one thing. Jasper wasn't the same person who'd broken him. And maybe, just maybe, Ezra wasn't either. He texted Jasper that night. A simple message: "Meet me at the quad tomorrow. Noon." The quad was bustling when Ezra arrived, students laughing and tossing frisbees. Jasper was already there, sitting on their bench, his hands fidgeting. When he saw Ezra, he stood, his expression a mix of hope and nerves. Ezra stopped a few feet away, his heart pounding. "I read your letter," he said, "and I'm scared. Jasper, I'm scared of getting hurt again, but I'm also scared of not trying." Jasper's eyes widened, a spark of hope igniting. "What does that mean?" It means I'm not ready to say I love you, Ezra said, his voice steady. But I'm ready to try. To see where this goes. If you're serious, you'll be patient. Jasper nodded, a smile breaking through. I'm serious, and I'll wait as long as you need. Ezra stepped closer, his hand brushing Jasper's. It was a small gesture, but it felt like a beginning. Okay, he said softly. Let's try. The weeks after their talk in the quad were tentative, like stepping onto thin ice. Ezra and Jasper moved slowly, rebuilding something new from the ashes of their past. They didn't call it dating. Not yet. But there was a quiet rhythm to their time together: coffee dates, late-night talks, moments where their hands found each other without thinking. Ezra felt the pull of something real, but he held back, testing the waters, waiting for the moment he could fully trust. Jasper was true to his word. He was patient, never pushing for more than Ezra was ready to give. He showed up to Ezra's poetry slams, cheered at the youth center's events, and shared pieces of himself, stories of his childhood, his struggles with his family, his journey to accepting who he was. Ezra saw the effort, the vulnerability, and it softened him, brick by brick. One warm April evening, they were at the youth center, helping the kids rehearse for a talent show. Kai, the shy teen from earlier in the year, had blossomed, performing a spoken-word piece about their non-binary identity. Ezra watched from the sidelines, Jasper beside him, their shoulders brushing. When Kai finished, the room erupted in applause, and Ezra felt a swell of pride. You're good with them, Jasper said, his voice low. You make them feel safe. Ezra glanced at him, surprised. So do you? They trust you. Jasper smiled, but there was a weight to it. I'm trying to be someone they can trust. Someone you can trust. Ezra's heart skipped. He reached for Jasper's hand. A quiet acknowledgement. And Jasper squeezed back, his thumb brushing Ezra's knuckles. It was a small moment, but it felt like a promise. As graduation loomed, the campus buzzed with bittersweet energy. Ezra was set to graduate with his literature degree, already accepted into a master's program nearby. Jasper, a year behind, was staying on campus, working on his community project. The future felt uncertain, but for the first time, Ezra wasn't afraid of it. One night, they were in Ezra's apartment, sprawled on the couch with a movie playing in the background. Jasper was sketching in his notebook, a habit Ezra had grown fond of. What's that one? Ezra asked, leaning over. Jasper tilted the notebook, revealing a drawing of the quad, their bench at the center, two figures sitting close. Us, he said simply. The day you said we could try? Ezra's throat tightened. He reached out, tracing the lines of the sketch. You're kind of a sap, he teased, but his voice was soft. Only for you, Jasper replied, his eyes warm. Ezra leaned in, closing the distance, and kissed him. It was slow, tentative, but it carried everything: years of hurt, hope, and something new blooming between them. Jasper kissed him back, gentle but sure, his hand cupping Ezra's face. When they pulled apart, Ezra's heart was racing, but he felt steady, grounded. I love you, Jasper said, his voice quiet but unwavering. I've loved you for a long time. Ezra's breath caught. He'd been afraid of those words, afraid of what they might mean. But now, looking at Jasper, he felt ready. I love you too, he said, the words a release. A weight lifted. Jasper's face lit up, and he pulled Ezra close, their foreheads touching. I'm not going anywhere, he whispered. Not this time. Graduation day was a blur of caps and gowns, cheers and tears. Ezra stood with Lila and his family, his heart full as he scanned the crowd for Jasper. He found him near the edge of the quad, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers, his smile bright. For you, Jasper said, handing them over. Congratulations, Ezra. Ezra took the flowers, his fingers brushing Jasper's. You didn't have to. I wanted to. Jasper said. I'm proud of you. They walked through the quad together, the campus alive with celebration. Ezra felt the weight of the past, but it no longer defined him. He'd learned to trust again, to love again, and Jasper had been there every step of the way, proving himself not with words, but with actions. As they reached their bench, Ezra stopped, turning to Jasper. I was wrong about one thing, he said. You're not chasing what you threw away. You're building something new with me. Jasper's eyes softened, and he took Ezra's hand. Something better. They sat on the bench, the world moving around them, and Ezra felt a quiet certainty settle in his chest. Their story wasn't perfect, it was messy, scarred, and hard-won, but it was theirs, built on forgiveness, courage, and the kind of love that didn't give up. As the sun dipped low, casting golden light across the quad, Ezra leaned against Jasper, their hands entwined, and knew this was only the beginning.